Hello, everybody, and you are watching Brian's Builds. Okay, so this is the video where I was going to demonstrate as like a how-to, flock a model car. So any of you who are watching who have actually flocked before will already know this, so I mean, you don't actually have to, watch this, because you've probably done it many more times than I have. There's going to be quite a number of people who have heard of flocking, have wanted to try it, but might not know, the ins and outs of flocking your model car. And then there's people who have probably never heard of flocking whatsoever. So I just figured I'd do a little how-to. Now, the flocking materials that I have are what I'm currently using to flock the carpet for the interior of my Eaglemoss Back to the Future DeLorean, which I have multiple different colors because I've been trying to figure out how to get the best results possible by doing different layers of the gray. Because as everybody who's ever been either driving in a car or has been a passenger in a car, sometimes you tend to look down at the carpeting. Well, car carpet isn't perfect. Over time, if you've owned your vehicle for a while, it gets kind of matted, fibers push down and flatten, in like certain spots, like where you might normally put your feet, how much water was in there, stuff like that. So, car carpet is not perfect. So, if you're one of those people who likes putting the detail in the flecked carpet for your own model, you know how to give it some detail looks. Because, I mean, there's going to be spots that are going to be lighter than lighter. You're going to end up get some medium color spots, and then you're going to get some really dark colored spots, all within the same original carpet. So that's where the detailing part comes in. So I have a regular gray color. This is like my base, the base color that I'm using for the DeLorean right here. And then I have a silver gray, which more than likely I'm going to be using as like the third coating, which will give it certain areas that much brighter colored carpet. And this one right here is a hold on, let me see, is a feather gray light. So that's the name of the color. They also make a medium color that you can use. I've just found that doing multiple different layers actually gets that that color that you want, that nice detailed coloring in the carpet. So, alright, so some things other than, your flocking material here, things that you're going to want, because normally with like a white plastic model, whatever color you plan on painting this, like if you prefer enamel, which most of the time the flocking material actually sticks better to an enamel paint. So if you use like a lighter color flocking material with a dark paint, the paint will actually absorb into the flocking. So sometimes it's best to use the same color paint as the flocking that you're using. Now, there's a big difference between flocking a 1/64th size model car compared to the 1/8 size that the DeLorean is. You are going to use so much more of the flocking material. Now, I think this is right here, I think this is a 1/2 ounce bag, or it could be a 1 ounce bag. Not really sure. I just happened to buy like the whatever was their standard bagging size. I mean, there's plenty of sites where you can choose a different size options. But yeah, it doesn't take much of the flocking material to carpet a car this size. I just happened to grab my, what was it? I think it's the 1969 Super Cobra Jet model that I have. This is a model that I happen to have done, oh geez, 18, 19 years ago. Or was it, I don't know, but you know, I'll just say 16 to 18 years ago. And this has a Mach 1 style body, but it's 429 cubic inch engine. When I had my, oh, here it is. Right here. So I still have the instructions. And, you know, right there. You know. So, I mean, this is how I know, right here, you know, what this is all about. You know, the model. Because I've built a lot of Mustang model cars. But it's a custom paint job. I usually paint all my model cars by hand. So I like putting the work behind it. But yeah, I mean, it takes a lot less flocking material for this. Now the interior of this is black. So I mean, if you were to go online and, you know, figure it out, you know, because certain models, you know, they put the color on the outside of the box, you know, which is like whatever color, you know, they'd probably prefer. I mean, a lot of people paint the car the way it looks on the outside of the box. I can't remember. I think the outside was supposed, they showed black. You know, with the, here, let me see if I can get a good look at the interior of this thing really quick. So, I mean, I don't want to take it out of the... Be careful. Well, it's partially black. Sorry about that. I was just trying to be careful not to damage this thing. But the interior, I believe, was either supposed to be black or red. So if it had remained red, I would have used a red flocking with a red enamel paint. But if it was black interior, you would have used a gloss enamel. You can use acrylic. I prefer acrylic for the detail work. So, I mean, I have, this is going to be a little demonstration right here. Well, different kind of demonstration for what I'm going to be going over. Alright, so right here, I'm going to zoom in on this piece right here. Alright, so right here is gloss black acrylic, and this is going to be gloss black enamel. And I do have a layer of flocking on there already. One thing you'll definitely notice with the enamel is the fibers will actually stick pretty flat into the enamel paint. Acrylic, because it's less sticky, actually allows the fibers to stick up a bit. Oh, I don't know if you can actually see that, but the fibers stick up quite a bit more with the acrylic than they do with the enamel. So if you had wanted to make your flocking stick up a little bit more, you can start off with enamel paint, but then you can still go to a clear coat and put a layer up over the top of it if you had really wanted to, and then put more of the flocking material in, depending on if it was black or red or blue or silver, depending on what you want to use. Now this is every little piece of or spot of flocking on here is using the silver gray, which is the brightest of the three. And you can see how dark this is. It turned it to like a really like dark gray, even with the enamel paint and the acrylic here. So right here we have flat clear. You will have to use multiple coats with the clear acrylic. And this is the gloss clear right here with the acrylic. Pretty much have about the same even coating. Now that's just initial one coat right there. And then this is a light gray acrylic, and then here's a gray enamel right here. And you'll notice you can still see some of the paint up underneath there. Now this did darken this quite substantially. And then once again, a lot of the spots in here are kind of flat. And the spot where it's actually had a lot of flocking that actually stuck into the paint, or stuck into the paint from the materials up underneath it, you can actually have a little bit of lifted up texture right in there compared to that. So I mean, that's a light gray, and you can see how gray that actually looks compared to everything. Now if you're using a white, you got the gloss, enamel, and then you have flat acrylic right here for the white. Now most white paint will actually make it lighter. You can see that the white acrylic here, that silver gray flocking, actually turned white, more white compared to the enamel here. So I mean, if you do multiple colors, it will end up eventually like white, getting whiter as you go. So Alright, so I just wanted to get that out of the way. Okay, so other stuff you will need other than, you know, paints. Whatever paints you happen to end up using. I mean, whether it's for a model car, or, you know, model trains, or whatever, because this is primarily used for, you know, obviously marine colors, but you can get some paints that are more specific to trains. If you so choose, could need up to multiple different sizes of paint brushes depending on the area that you're working with. So you have that. Alright. So me, that was, you know, the little thing right there. I am going to be demonstrating the flocking, the silver gray flocking once again, and I'm going to be showing you what it'll look like with these three colors. I got the silver here, and I think I got a bronze, nope, copper, and then I have a Tamiya medium blue right here. So I'm gonna do that. One other thing that you're gonna need, which I do not have any more of, I haven't been able to go get any more yet, but you're gonna want a breathing mask. You know, like that medical paper style breathing mask, because these fibers can go everywhere. But I don't have any, so I gotta be a little bit more careful on what I'm doing. And you're also going to want to make sure that you have the proper cleaner, proper brush cleaner when you're doing this. Alright, let me get my model car out of the way there. Alright, and alright, so the flocking material does come in those plastic bags. It is easier to put it into a storage container. I personally prefer, you know, like a Glad or Ziploc storage container, you know. Didn't happen to actually have one to use except for these things. So, not exactly the best option there. Alright, well, there's my enamel cleaner. Seeing as this copper is enamel, so I'm going to need that. And hold on one sec, I just got to get a Kleenex for when I clean the brush off. I'll actually grab two of them here, just in case. Alright, so, yeah, I know it might not, you know, actually seem like, you know, I have actually done this on video before, which I actually have not. I mean, I've done this to my model cars, especially the model car I built for my father this one year, which it was the 50th anniversary of the Mustang, or the 64.5 Mustang, and I built that with like the same coloring and everything that as the car that my father had when he was younger. So black interior, or I should say the carpeting was black, even though it was the turquoise color paint around the outside with white seats. So alright, so get enough paint on the brush, pick a spot, make sure I could have, you know, some of the flocking could have actually gotten on there before I start doing this. So you just pick a small spot. You can put the paint on as thick or as thin as you want. And then just make sure before it dries, which I just put my brush on the Kleenex right there. Alright, so depending on the size, you just take some and you put it up over the top of the paint. Good amount. What you think will actually cover that spot that you're doing. And then you just, you know, tap and push those fibers down into the paint. So here, let me zoom that in for you. You just tap and push the fibers down into the paint. So that way they'll actually adhere into it. Like I was saying, usually lighter color flocking will absorb the color of the paint. Alright, and next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to get the excess off. You know, the best way to do it is just to pick it up and tap the part. And believe me, there will be a lot of excess coming off of this. Sometimes some of the excess still gets stuck within the other fibers. So sometimes you will have to wait until the paint is completely dry, and then you would actually have to like blow on it. Or when it's dry, you just rub your finger over it and you can still see all the loose fibers. At least that way, you know, they won't actually go everywhere. But those are just a couple of options. And now, like I said, because enamel paint, I mean, you can kind of see that, well, you might not be able to see it, but I can see it right in front of me. The flocking is actually starting to turn more of the like coppery color. So, you see, I just knocked a little loose spot off of there. Alright. Alright, and now I'm going to have to clean my brush off really quick. And then we will next use the silver paint, which I still have some copper on there. So I'm going to have to dip it again. Sometimes you'll notice that some of like the metallic paints tend to stick into the brush bristles a little bit more than just regular paint because of the metal flakes that are in it. Which, you know, is either a good or bad thing. I mean, if you're constantly just using one brush for all the same color, it doesn't really make a difference then. But if you're like me and you reuse the same brush for multiple different color paints, then, you know, when you use a metallic paint, you know, eventually you might start seeing, you know, those flakes coming out in color that you don't want to personally see the flakes in. But, okay, so here we're going to go with the silver paint. After that, we'll go with the blue. I do not have any red up here, unfortunately, though. Alright. So, same thing with the silver paint. Now, these are just different options. Just trying to give you guys different options that you can go by this, just so you can see some results on what something could end up looking like. Now, there are some online sites that have, you know, possibly like 50 different, you know, color options or more. So you do have quite a variety to choose from. Alright, let me... And now you can definitely see that this is now this with silver paint underneath it. You can definitely tell that the fibers are soaking up that paint as it's drying, because now it has a shine to it. Whereas, you know, if you use like a flat color like this, it's gonna keep its base on there. But using anything that is bright and shiny, it tends to happen. So, alright, so there's the silver paint. We'll do the blue paint. Just gotta get this screwed on. There we go. Alright. Gotta clean my brush again. And yes, I am using the same size brush just so I have a large enough area to actually show this demonstration to you guys. Definitely have to make sure I try to get as much of the silver paint off of this brush as I can. Alright, I guess that should be good. Alright, and then we'll get the blue in here. Which, this is a nice color blue. I like the Tamiya colors. You know, sometimes you need a Tamiya color that's a bit more specialized. And sometimes, you know, the regular, like, Model Master paints have a color that Tamiya does not. So sometimes you have to use one or both things. Alright, now this is an acrylic paint. So take it and we'll just put that blue on there. Alright, move that paint up out of the way, and then we'll take the silver gray and make sure we get enough on there so we can take care of this. Now, when I'm modeling, it's best to do it in small spots at a time. Seeing as a 1/64th scale, like that Mustang model, the areas are so small for where you can carpet. You can do like right in the driver's seat area by the pedals, like basically all in one shot. You know, right where the you'd put the the mats down. Alright. Alright, get that set aside. Ooh, there's a little bit of extra on my cutting mat, but oh well. Alright. And here you can see that the silver gray flocking is actually starting to turn a bit blue. So, I mean, you can still see the silver in there, but it's darkening up the silver as the blue paint is being absorbed into this. So, I mean, you can definitely tell right now that silver gray is definitely more of a copper color, and this with the silver paint did basically end up turning the silver gray flocking more of a silver color. And then this one is darkening up a bit. So, I mean, all the flocking right here, depending on how much extra paint in there is on the piece of plastic, the more paint will get absorbed into these fibers. But there you have that. From far away, you can definitely tell the difference in the colors just by the different paints used. Alright, so we'll get that put down right there. Okay, now I will show you how I've been flocking my DeLorean. Right after I clean my brush. So if you do multiple layers, always make sure that you let the previous layer completely dry. And then always make sure you get the excess flocking material out of that spot before you reapply, if you have to reapply. So that way you get as little of the loose fibers onto the brush when you're putting your next coat of paint, or, well, coat of colored paint or coat of clear, because all the extra loose fibers will, you know, stick onto the brush. Alright, well, actually I wanted to clean my brush, but I don't actually need that brush for this part right here. And you can tell all I did was I just, you know, basically cut this piece of plastic out of here, put a little bit of flocking on there just to show this, and you can tell that the flocking is at a 90-ish degree angle right there. So, contour spacing, or contour flocking. And I've been doing this with a flat clear enamel throughout the entire time I was flocking the DeLorean interior, only because that interior is already painted a light gray. So I didn't have to use a color paint in order to do my flocking on there. So this has had quite a chance to actually dry already. So, alright, just gonna dip the brush into the clear, and I'm gonna try to get the paint in that crack, as much of it as I can do, because you want to try to get it into that crevice and up along both sides. And I'm sorry, I am left-handed, Here, let's... Alright, so that should be enough paint. Or I should say clear. Alright. And then you just take the flocking and use your fingers to get the initial push down into that spot. And what really helps with that contour curvature is you take your brush handle and you just push that right in there. You know, just lightly push. You don't have to put a whole lot of force into this. Just like that. And you can see that it has been sticking to some of the paint right there, or the clear coat. And then use your finger to get the flocking pushed up into the flat spots. Alright. And then after that, we just take this, put it right up over the top of the container again, and just make sure we tap this. Sometimes it does work if you do that. Does a pretty good job getting all the loose stuff off. And then zoom in, and you will notice that you have a curvature now. Alright, I don't know if I'll be able to show this all that great for this side. We'll see. So, because the plastic's getting in the way right here. But you can see that there's still a curvature on this side too. Now, once again, once this actually dries, you are going to want to make sure that all that extra flocking material has been knocked free. Just trying to get as much of this loose stuff. Because like I said, this stuff will go everywhere. So but this is how you can see it with pre-done with certain colors and certain types. And this copper color was the only enamel I had up here at this point in time. This was an acrylic, the silver was an acrylic, and the Tamiya medium blue was also an acrylic paint. And all I used on this was a flat clear coat. Which, I mean, you can still use clear on a white plastic, especially if you're using like a really bright colored flocking material. Let's say you go for like a bright red, or like a bright green, or a really bright blue, or, you know, whichever color you feel like using. You can still get away with using a clear coat in multiple different layers to give it that nice detail look. And that's how you do a contour. So, because normal carpeting, there's no edges. Definitely no edges in car carpeting. It doesn't meet at like a 90-degree angle. It's got a curvature to it because it forms to the way that they do it in the factory. They make a curve in there. Because, I mean, if everything had like a 90-degree angle, like a straight cut 90-degree angle, it would just, the interior of a car would just look really weird. But if you're not so sure about flocking your own model car or your own Eaglemoss DeLorean, there's another option that you can choose. You can go over to MikeLaneMods.com, and he has a pre-cut set of carpeting for the Eaglemoss DeLorean. And it looks pretty cool. You just peel and stick, so you don't actually have to worry about, you know, doing what I'm doing with my DeLorean interior, which I will actually bring out my interior in just a little while here, because I do want to show you what I've done with that. And this is something that's taken me a while between, you know, my full-time job and everything else that's been going on lately, you know, personal life wise. So this let's see, what's the total? Possibly anywhere between 2 and 3 weeks so far. So here, I'm gonna move that up out of the way, and then I'm gonna bring my interior in. Now mind you, this is not done yet. This is not done. I only have 2 out of 3 of the different color layers on here. So, I mean, on camera, it looks like it's, you know, pretty light color. Because, well, not as light as it really looks in person. Because, I mean, you can see all the dark color gray, or the regular color gray, up underneath this light feather gray that I put up on top of here. And you can definitely see right now, like, all the little contour ups and lows of this. And you can feel that. I mean, it's, and I did contour my flocking so that way you can tell that, you know, it looks like one piece here where the black firewall is on either side, and I flocked in here so that way you don't really, basically just like a real car where you can see behind where like the dash area is, flocked enough so that way when the center console goes on, you're not really going to be able to see that. And contoured the back piece and the side pieces here so that way you can tell that this is like a all-in-one piece. And even got up in the where the screw holes are right here. But yeah, I'm gonna zoom in a little bit. I didn't really like finish underneath where the seats are, because you're pretty much not even gonna see that. But this is with the regular gray and with the light feather gray so far. Now the silver gray, when I go and put it on, is going to be very, very light coating, because that stuff is so bright in color that I just want to use it in, you know, like certain places throughout here that might not have, you know, really been touched by, you know, weathering. So I mean, that's basically the way I'm doing my flocking, is so that way it has like a weathered multiple use effect on it. So, but it looks good. It looks really good. It just needs a little bit more lightening up before it permanently goes into the DeLorean for good. But I mean, it is definitely lighter colored in person than it really shows up on camera. And this silver gray flocking is definitely going to help out with that. It's going to make certain areas, like right up in here, needs up a little bit. You know, like right up above where the feet would rest. Like right up in here. Like a little bit right up along the side of the center console areas, right in there. And maybe back by the seat, right in here. And in here. All the places normally where your feet are not going to be touching will probably have the most of the silver gray flocking to, you know, really lighten those certain areas up. Because, I mean, getting out of the car, you know, with the, you know, wet feet, dirty feet, because a lot of times that's where your light color carpet will actually darken, is because you might have had dirty water. It will, when it dries, it will darken the color. I mean, most people don't really like shampoo their car carpets because, you know, it doesn't really matter. You know, it's just a car, you know, it's not a home, but I just wanted to show that detailing in my carpet. And if anybody has noticed so far, with the seatbelts, I did get rid of the original material that they had for the seatbelts. The material they used pretty much looks like, you know, the material they'd use for a fabric waist belt. You know, the kind of belt that you'd, you know, wear in your pants to help keep them up. It was like that kind of material. This is a ribbon, and this is the same kind of material they used for the straps on the doors. And it is so much more of a more realistic seatbelt looking material than what they had on there, so I had to switch it. I was looking for like a duller looking black than this, but it's all they had at the local hobby shop, unfortunately. But yeah, and I will be doing the same thing with the other parts of the seatbelts too. So, alrighty. Well, I hope all of you guys actually enjoyed something. If you have any more questions about flocking, you know, you can put a comment down below. If you want me to show you what this will look like with that lighter silver gray in those certain areas, I can always do an update if you want to see what it looks like after that. I hope this how-to video on flocking your model was valuable for you, and good luck on your own flocking. And thank you for watching Brian's Builds. Until the next DeLorean mod, we're out of time.